Hey everybody, Boy Onyx, and we're gonna do a quick review on Rogueflight, a new arcade-style on-rail shooter that's extremely anime-inspired, anime from the 80s and 90s particularly. Thank you very much for Truant Pixel and whoever's working with your PR team. You guys are awesome for sending me a copy to review. But first, I wanna talk about what an on-rail shooter is because there's not very many of these, right? Think of games like Panzer Dragoon, Star Fox. Those are your type of games that are just on-rail shooters, right? It's a game that you're playing one specific type of character, either in a vehicle or on their own, flying around, moving on rails, and just shooting at things that are coming at you. And this is the type of genre that I've always enjoyed. I'm a big Panzer Dragoon fan. Anybody that is a fan of the channel would know that. And I also love Star Fox a ton. So when I first saw this trailer, I thought, wow, this looks great. This looks right up my alley. Anime inspired, right? On-rail shooter, very arcadey, which I love. I love that like style of game. I was really looking forward to this. So now that I've told you the history, or my history with this genre, I have expectations. And I don't want them to be unrealistic or anything like that, but I do have expectations. So I'm gonna break things down in this review a little bit differently than what I've done before. I'm not really gonna break things into like, you know, the typical graphics, story, gameplay, all that stuff. It's going to be more of a conversation because I kind of want to give good input, give good insight, as well as end the video by answering the question, is this the type of on-rail shooter that can replace the classics of the past, that can be there and stand up with Panzer Dragoon or Star Fox? Well, let's get into it. First, let's just talk about what I thought was actually really cool. I love the theming of this game, the aesthetics, how it all looks. It is really, really cool looking. It has this like gritty, like almost like retro filter, right? It makes me feel like I'm looking at like an 80s VHS. If you don't know what a VHS is, God, why don't you know what that is? But it makes me feel that way. It makes me feel like back in the day when I remember I bought a Dragon Ball GT tape at a mall. It had episodes that I've never seen before, Japanese. I guess somebody recorded them somewhere, put them on these tapes and sent them out here. And it didn't look good. It wasn't very high quality. And it reminded me of this. This game has that look to it. I like that a lot. It's clear that the creators of this game, which our studio name is Truant Pixel, it's very clear they're fans of this era. Or at least it seems that way, because you wouldn't know, right, how an era looks unless you were aware of it or grew up watching stuff in that era. So kudos to them, because this looks like an actual 80s anime. It even has the sick anime OP. Like, that's cool. It sounds good too, which is great. You know, kudos to the team. They definitely nailed the vibes and aesthetics. And the gameplay itself, as you're gonna see in the footage here, it's nothing crazy. It is very reminiscent of Star Fox in a lot of ways. You've got some missiles, right? That's essentially your lock-on. They are limited in quantity. You don't have an unlimited amount of missiles. You have to gather them as you shoot enemies and stuff and do combos, which there is like a combo meter of sorts in the game. As the more enemies you shoot in a row and take down, the combo meter goes up. After a certain number, you get drops, whether it's missiles or shields or other special weapons. And I thought this was really cool. It kind of incentivizes you to keep on going, keep on shooting, and keep that flow going. But besides that shooting, you've got, you know, a few maneuvers. You've got a really cool maneuver that you do with the right stick. You kind of press left or right, and your ship does this really cool, like sick, like 180 turn, shoots this like laser beam that kind of kills everything in front of it. You can even aim it a little bit. Pretty cool. You've got a boost. You've got a slowdown. And you've got a barrel roll, right? This all reminds me a lot of Star Fox, because Star Fox has a barrel roll, and it also has the ability to boost and slow down. So immediately, I'm already getting some vibes, you know, in terms of the gameplay of Star Fox, which may have been an inspiration. I don't know if it was, right? Besides just the game elements, I don't know if it was or not, but it already set that precedent. So as soon as I started playing, I started getting that vibe. So anyway, I kept playing the game, and one of the things that really sticks out are the graphics. I already mentioned the aesthetics and the vibes, but the graphics themselves are really solid. The game looks good. As you go through the levels, there's a lot of different like variety to them. Each one has, you know, you go through like a volcano level, a rain level, a level in space where you're avoiding debris. There's lots of things you're going to be seeing, and it all looks pretty solid. This is True and Pixel's possibly 4th game, looking at their games page over on their website. I don't know if they made any more, but it could potentially be their 4th game ever. So if that's the case, kudos to the team, because the game honestly looks really good. So right off the bat, you've got the game looking good, and the VA work, the voice actors, like, they've got good direction. They sound really believable. They don't sound really hammy or extra cheesy or anything like that. It's definitely far and above, much better than what we had in Star Fox 64, right? But yeah, kudos again there. This is an indie game, obviously, and it's one that I'm hoping does well because there's a lot of passion to it. But yeah, I was just really surprised by the VA work. It's really solid, so kudos on that too. This is where I want to talk a little bit more about the gameplay itself and the variety, right? What you do. So if you look at the gameplay that you're seeing in the background here, very action heavy. You're just shooting a lot of enemies coming through from all corners of the screen, avoiding damage, doing barrel rolls, things like that. And really, that's kind of where my biggest issues lie. I think the game has a lack of variety, and it may be enemy variety. It may not be. I think that you can use enemies or similar enemies many times without it being an issue. I think that there's just not a lot of variety in the levels and not a lot of variety in what the enemies do, right? They're really basic. When you look at this gameplay, you're gonna see that they just kind of come at you. They kind of shoot at you in different ways, and kind of, get avoid some missiles here, get some barrels here, things like that. The bosses definitely have the most variety, but also not really. They all kind of stem around shooting a weak spot, and that's kind of normal for these kind of games. You typically have to shoot a weak spot. So the bosses don't feel too bad in that aspect. Visually, they also kind of look very samey. Before I get my points across, this is what I want you to understand too. This is, again, an indie game from a team, a very small team, right? It doesn't seem like there's like a huge team here working on it. I don't want to go in here and I didn't have these expectations that this game was going to be this crazy budgeted Nintendo level of development, right? I didn't think so. I fully expected it to be this is a solid shooter. And yes, it is a solid shooter, but I want to just, because I've played so many Unreal shooters, and I'm sorry if it seems like I'm rambling a little bit, I kind of am, but because I've played so many Unreal shooters, it stuck out to me like a sore thumb. Very, very, very apparently, And just to kind of show you what I mean, I'm going to show you the first level of this game, the very first level of the tutorial. And then I'm going to show you the very first level of Star Fox. And let's kind of look at it, right? So this is the first level of the game. And as you can see, you're flying around. There's some beautiful blue sky in the background there. You've got some ships flying around in the background. Looks pretty cool. Clouds are coming at you really fast, so it's already telling you this game is fast, but we're going to go fast, fast, fast and shoot things. And you see the enemies are coming at you in different ways. This is the first level again, so you don't expect a lot of like crazy difficulty. The game is kind of trying to teach you the ways of how it goes and teach you just kind of how the game looks and how it works primarily. But genuinely, this is it. This is it. This is the first level. There's not much more to it. Enemies kind of keep coming at you. You got this really cool little set piece here where like a ship comes out of the clouds and stuff like that. And again, I want to reiterate, it looks good. It has a good presentation. One really cool detail is every time you move around, your character's portrait at the bottom right of the screen also follows the direction you're aiming at. Pretty cool. But yeah, this is it. If you like this right here, you're gonna have a blast. I mean, and I had fun. I had fun while I was playing the game. But as the levels kept going and as the levels kept, as the game kept going on, I started getting a little, I don't want to say bored, but kinda. There wasn't enough variety. So let's switch over and let's look at Star Fox 64, just for a quick comparison. The game starts and it throws you in here, kind of gives you an idea of what to do. And very similarly, you've got blue skies. You've got a backdrop there of just kind of nothing but blue and enemies just coming at you, right? So the game, there isn't a tutorial in the game per se, but there is a training room that kind of teaches you what to do. Now, yes, Rogueflight obviously doesn't have other NPCs helping you, right? Other CPU-like helpers, but in this case, you do. You have teammates. So that already adds a little bit of variety, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But immediately, you've got enemies coming at you in different directions. You've got a lot of variety. The level is actually changing constantly, right? It started off in that big blue sky with the ocean under, or the sea or whatever it was, and now you're in a city after going through a valley. There's a lot of just level progression that Rogueflight doesn't have. And maybe it's a little unfair to compare a game like Star Fox 64. It had Nintendo's developers behind it, and we know this had a much bigger team and probably a bigger budget than what Rogueflight had. You know, I understand that, you know, but this is also a game that came out, I mean, what, 1996, 1997? I forget the year exactly. It's been a long time, you know. And I kind of wanted something similar to the experience in terms of at least variety, you know? It's not that I wanted Star Fox again, but when I saw the gameplay and I thought, ooh, this looks cool, my first thought was, can this stand with the others? Will this be a game that will be remembered fondly like Panzer Dragoon and like Star Fox? And I don't know if I can say that. I don't. Now, some of the levels do get more interesting as you go in terms of enemy numbers, right? The difficulty does go up as you keep playing the game, which makes sense. And like I said earlier, some of the levels look really cool visually. They're very interesting to look at. But after a while, at least initially, right? They're really interesting to look at initially. But after a while, that goes away. You know, it becomes just kind of the same. You're really on rails here. There's no diverging paths besides... after the third chapter, you get to choose a certain trajectory, a certain path that you can take for the story. And that also reminded me of Star Fox, you know? Obviously, it's a lot more simple. There's really only 3 ways, and there's 3 endings that I know of. So I'm not going to talk about the endings. You can experience them on your own. But one of the most important things about on-rail shooters is replayability. How much do you want to replay these games to get the most out of it? Do you want to see every single ending? Is there a perfect ending? Is there more to it than that? I did not feel that drive. You know, I went through it, saw the endings once, and that I felt like that was all I needed. But yeah, overall, the game is not a bad title. It's very clearly a labor of love. You can tell, like I said earlier, the team loves this aesthetic, loves this era of anime storytelling, and loves the genre because it's a solid on-rail shooter. The movement is really good. I love how fast and zippy the ship feels. And I really like the character of Nadia. She's really interesting overall. But I think that the game left me wanting more. It honestly left me wanting to play Star Fox. And playing Star Fox 64 for this video, playing that first level, I was reminded of just the quality of a really good on-rail shooter, right? And Rogueflight is just, it's missing that key aspect. I think if the devs want to try again and do a Rogueflight 2 or something along those lines, they can make a great game. It just needs more variety. It needs to slow down on the action and do something with the levels, something more interesting. I think that is the recipe for success. So I give this a TGR bronze. It is a solid attempt at creating a game, and I think it worked out pretty well. But overall, I don't think it's going to be very memorable. At the end of the day, I think that it left a lot to be desired. However, if you just want to have a good time, a good couple of hours, just shooting things and looking really cool and enjoying a pretty decent story, you can do worse. You can definitely do worse than this. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate your time, and I hope to see you later. Bye, guys.